Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Pro Football Talk. Man, it's been a long time. Been actually a hell of a long time. I'm your host, Sean Grant. And, I had put this podcast on hold for a bit because, I had just wanted to focus in other areas and, but I've always kept my eye. And I've always been interested to see about this situation in general, how it was going to play out. And, for some time there, you felt such a deep, and you still do. I mean, I know I still do, and I'm speaking for myself, but you felt such a deep compassion for Colin Kaepernick and all that he was going through. Because when we look at it, and that's the focus that I want to talk about today, when we really look at what has transpired throughout this entire ordeal, even when he was still playing with the 49ers, when you're able to put your beliefs aside, when you're able to put your conditioning aside, when you're able to put your race aside, and really take a good look at what he was trying to accomplish, he teaches us all a lesson that even our kids, if you have kids, can benefit from. And he's not alone, because Nike, the all-powerful, all-global Nike, backed him up and stood in the face of backlash, of hate, of anger, of disdain from so many people you would call supporters or fans of the brand. They stood in the face of all of that and backed him up and created something that is absolutely timeless. And so, I just want to just touch on that today. It's such a powerful subject that I'm like, you know what? I need to hop back on to the Pro Football Talk podcast and really just express what I feel, because, it hit me as I was working out that, there's always things, especially in sometimes people just kind of cast off sports as being this thing of it's just entertainment, but sports is so highly scrutinized and magnified and focused upon that it can teach us a lot if we're willing to accept some of the lessons that are being given by the universe, right? So let's go back a bit, though, when this situation began. So Colin Kaepernick, starting quarterback of the San Francisco 49ers. This was 2015, 16, something like that. Anyway, he decides to take a knee. I mean, the whole story. He takes a knee because of what he felt like was basically a slap in the face. And if you don't know, I'm going to tell you right now. The National Anthem is a song about slavery. Okay? It's a song about slavery that a lot of Americans, when I say a lot, damn near a whole hell of a lot of them, do not know or are unaware that that is a song written by Francis Scott Key about slavery. And so when you find that out, and when you actually look up the lyrics, like you can Google the lyrics, when you see this, you're like, holy shit, like, this was a song that made me feel great about my country. And now I realize that it's talking about slavery. It's kind of a slap in the face. But like most of us do, we decide that we're not going to make a fuss about it. We're just going to fall in line. We're just going to, put ourselves into a place of not making disruptions or interrupting the flow of whatever is going on So we kind of fall back into place. And we just kind of let it slide because, that's what we've been taught. And I've been through it more so than anybody else because I grew up in the South. I grew up in the Bible Belt. I grew up Catholic. I grew up in a religion that says anytime you thought of something impure, you were wrong. And so that conditioned me to not want to speak what was trying to emerge. Now that's gotten better here in the last, actually it's gotten a lot better in the past few years, but for a long time I struggled with that. But then you look at a guy like Colin Kaepernick, who came on the scene and right away had success, was a huge figure in San Francisco at the time. Jim Harbaugh had the team, really on the up and up. He was such a polarizing figure and someone who we thought as Niners fans was going to be the next Steve Young, the next, Montana to lead us to championships and stuff like that. But he ran into some injuries and then he ran into these issues. And the problem is, as a football player, unless you're a superstar, nobody really knows who you are. They know you by number, but the fans rarely see your face. And a lot of times, if you have that good old boy mentality, you're like, do your job, come to work, don't say anything, abide by the rules, go home. But Colin Kaepernick took a different route. And the lesson that I want to speak of, the valuable lesson that I want to talk about now and then kind of continue throughout the rest of the podcast, is that he believed in something so strongly. He believed in something so strongly that he was willing to fight the entire world for it all. And when I tell you, this is so admirable. The only problem is most of us do not have the consciousness, the fortitude, the ability to withstand. We are so caught up in being a society of people pleasers that we would rather not make waves than stand up for what we know is right. Now, at the same time, I'm not saying that you have to offend anybody. And if you really look at it, Cap was not offending anybody when he was demonstrating this practice for desired freedom. Now, I can tell you what happened was that it triggered a lot of closet racists and emotions and beliefs about what black people should and shouldn't do in America. And that just became completely outrageous to witness. I mean, I'm sorry. I studied psychology in college. If you go as far as to burn somebody's jersey, you need help. I'm just saying it. I don't care. You can be black, white, Chinese, Asian, Indian. You need help if you're going to burn somebody's jersey, because that is just taking it way too far. And that's allowing your ego, which only thinks of me, and fear and protection, to overtake what your heart may be trying to tell you. Right? So when we go deeper, we put the beliefs, once again, we put the beliefs and the conditioning aside. Put all that shit aside. I don't care if you're Billy Bob sitting in Alabama right now in the back of a truck with a rebel flag. Put all that aside and ask yourself, okay, what is this man trying to accomplish? What is this man teaching all of us as Americans, as people, as human beings on this earth? What is he really teaching us? Well, I can think of a few things. One thing, which we should be applauding because it's such a timeless lesson, is to stand up for yourself. The second one, stand up for a cause, for which you believe in. Honor your cause at all costs. That's two things. two things our kids can learn from to kind of get them out of that millennial box that so many are trapped in, not knowing how to socialize and being caught up in all of this, technology, digital age shit that is basically ruining the way kids interact with each other. But that's a whole nother topic. But let's get back to the lessons that he was teaching us. So not only was he standing up for a cause, this man did it with such a level of dignity and respect that you have to admire the way he handled himself. You have to admire the way he handled himself. And the reason I say that is because as a black man, as an African-American man, 37 years old, in any part of America, whether it was Louisiana, California, and Florida now that I'm in, somebody calls you a nigger. Somebody calls you a spook, a coon, something that is beyond offensive. There's something that raises up inside of you that wants you to fight back with every single bit of power that you have, and then some, sometimes even to the death. It is such a trigger for any African-American individual to hear that word and to hear it in a derogatory way. And to hear him called boy and called a dog, like it was almost as if we were transferred back to like the 1800s and Kaepernick was a slave or something, because this is how people were approaching this entire situation. They weren't, see, the problem with America is America doesn't like to get to the heart of the situation before they start making judgments, which judgments in itself are completely terrible. It's okay to have an opinion, but a judgment is on a different level. So America decides that we see something, oh shit, well, we're going to make a judgment on it right now, and that's the way it is, and we don't want to hear anything else. And so we shut off everything, shut off the point of what's trying to be made. So much so that all the NFL owners decide that it was bad for business. And you think to yourself, these guys are head of multi-billion-dollar corporations, have more money than we could ever even, most of us will see in our lives. But they refuse to step to the forefront and see the truth for what this man was demonstrating. They refused to. And you can't tell me that they did not refuse to, because he would be signed to a team right now if one of them were to step up and actually see it for what it is. But they wanted no part of that. They wanted absolutely no part of that. But anyway, getting back to my point, not to get off track here, you think about all he went through and all the stuff that would have the average man grabbing a weapon and shooting up every single person he could possibly find because he's an emotional wreck from what he just encountered. Kaepernick stood his ground, not once verbally offending anybody, not once. I mean, if you would see some of the footage of the games he went to, all the hatred he incurred as he walked into the stadium. It's just insane to think that Americans treat other Americans like this. It's insane. A country that's supposed to be based on freedom is more or less working on the values of shackling, amendment that's important to all of us. Freedom of expression. But so my whole point is when I look at that and I think about everything. I think about everything from the time he started kneeling to where he is now, how he held himself with dignity. He held himself professionally. He held himself to a degree that, once you put those beliefs and conditioning aside, would make anybody proud. Would make anybody proud. Because this is what life is about. We come to this earth with certain gifts, certain talents, certain aspects of ourselves that the world needs to see in order to become a better place. And this man took his gifts and his talents to be a leader to an entirely different level. And he inspired a nation, a world of people. Now, some of them won't even come out and tell you that they've been inspired because they're ashamed at how they acted when it first came out. But I can guarantee you, they're inspired because guess what? When Nike is getting behind you, you know you're doing something right. You know you're standing for something right. And Nike's not always been the best, company for whatever reason here. I know they were in trouble with a few things in the past, but at the same time, we're looking at a company. You see that check damn near everywhere you go. The NFL, all of its uniforms are Nike. All of it. Most of the apparel that's being worn is Nike. You see kids running around wearing Nikes. You see homeless men in Nikes. You see Nike at Times Square. Just do it. This brand is such a global entity. Everywhere, they decide to get behind Colin Kaepernick. And they solidify the truth that I want to share with you today. That Kaepernick was not only right in his approach, but he did it in a respectful way. Even veterans have thought it was respectful. The people that some of the rednecks said were being offended, they came forth and said he's doing it in a way that's so American, we can't even believe that it's actually unfolding in this way. And I'm not saying it was just the rednecks, there were other people. But at the same time, he did it in a way that was so respectful, and he stood in the face of everything. Sacrificed his career, sacrificed his paycheck, sacrificed his ability to probably go to certain places that he wouldn't have been able to go now, because that's America for you. And if you don't know what I'm saying, read through the lines. When we love you, we really love you. But when we hate you, oh God, look out, because we're going to take a flashback back to the time of slavery, and that's how it's going to be. We're going to burn your jersey. We're going to talk bad about you. We're going to call you a dog. We're going to let all our racist tactics come out of the closet and make you wish you would have never done what you did. But at the same time, this man proved that when we believe in something and we're willing to die for it, because he's willing to die for it, he's willing to die for it. Nobody could change his mind. He was stern and resolute in his belief. And he continued to march forward knowing that what he was doing was making a difference. And it made that difference. And like I said, when you can get a global company, a company as wealthy, a company as influential, a company as visibly well known as Nike to get behind you, especially when they know they're going to lose investors, they're going to lose customers. Even through all that stuff, they stood behind him and said, we got your back. Let's do this. And it proves, and I'm going to end with this, it proves that when we believe in something, when we believe in something with all our hearts, when we believe in something that we know to be true, even when the whole world stands against us, that is in the Bible. When we believe in that thing and it becomes a part of us, we can stand up for it and stand in the truth of it and not have to worry about if we're going to make it out to the other side. Because guess what? We are. Sometimes you fight for so long that the other team just can't fight anymore. And before you know it, you're standing in your promised land. And all the stuff you scratched and clawed for was worth every second because you were strong enough to keep fighting when everybody else was bowing out. You were strong enough to keep fighting as the tide started to turn, when people who were burning jerseys started to come forth and see what your message was all about. That is a champion. He may not have a Super Bowl ring, but that to me is a champion. That is a model citizen of the United States of America. That to me is someone who our kids can emulate. That is someone who we can be inspired by and find that thing that we're so passionate about that we can stand up and stand for and never look back. That's the truth of the matter within this situation. That's the truth that we have to see. And if you're not ready to see it, then I respect your beliefs. I respect your opinions. That's who you are. That's who you decide to be. But if you can see that, transformation for you is beginning to develop. Because the truth is, only when we can see things outside of our own personal beliefs and conditioning and upbringing are we able to really live in love and really stand in truth. That's the only way. If not, you're still living in a box. But I think I know Nike and Colin Kaepernick prove that it's possible for anybody to get out of the box if you're willing to believe in something and sacrifice everything for it. Guys, thank you so much for joining me today. It has been a pleasure. We'll talk soon. Take care. Bye-bye.